Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome to We Need Our Space as I turn down my music. There we go. Welcome to We Need Our Space Live, a special summer edition as summer has just started. I'm actually on vacation right now at my house, but I did promise that we would be doing a summer show today, so I have my new NASA mug here. So we're going to do a little bit of a primer on the summer nighttime sky, which you can find in your summer sky. Coffee. This is only coffee. Okay. Okay, where to begin? Let's just see if we are still on. We are. Leave me a message in the comments there and let me know where you are watching from. Always appreciate that. Like to see where everyone's kind of watching. Okay. Well, usually what we do whenever we begin, hang on a second. Usually what we do whenever we begin is we start on Earth and we gradually pull away. But since this is a summer show, we're going to start on Earth. We're going to learn about the constellations we can find in this summer, why we see different constellations every season, some of the planets that we can find, and we're going to visit some of these stars up close and personal, and I'll even tell you a little story of some romance that you can find in the summer nighttime sky. So to begin with, let's have a evening sunset here in Baton Rouge, right outside the planetarium, on the Paper Clips dock, right by the USS Kidd. And as the sun begins to set, one of the advantages of having a virtual tour here is no mosquitoes. So that's one of the downside of summer nighttime sky stargazing is the mosquitoes that are out. Well, last week we covered what we could find in our spring nighttime sky. And today we're going to go over what you can find in our summer nighttime sky. So here we are, what you would see on a clear country sky night. Now I say country sky because there is a difference between the country sky and a city sky. City sky has lots of light pollution. We have lights from headlights and street lights and business lights, and it sort of washes out the stars. So if you can get far away from the city, far out into the country, you can see more stars and even the band of our Milky Way galaxy right there. So, that being said, why do we see different constellations from season to season? Let's take a look over here for a second. Here we are in space, instantly transported out into space. Well, I'm going to back away a little bit from Earth, because if you didn't recognize it, that is Earth, that is home. And at night, when we're all about to go to sleep, we're on this side, the night side of Earth. So let's back away. Let's see some of the orbit lines of the other planets. There goes the orbital path of our moon. And keep backing away here until we see the orbits, the orbital path of Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Let's go out a little bit further. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and then there over here, Pluto, right there. But I'm not really worried about Pluto right now. Here is a view of Earth. That little blue line right there, that represents us on Earth. And if I pull up, let's see here, if I pull up the constellations that we can find, here we are. I'm going to pull up the names of the constellations as well. All right. Well, here we are on Earth. On the night side, there's the sun, there's the Earth. On the night side, we would be looking up and seeing these constellations: Virgo, Libra, Ophiuchus, Sagittarius, Scorpius. So we're on that side, looking out. This whole view here, the sky, is our summer sky. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to advance time by 3 months. So again, there we are on Earth. Here we go, 3 months fast forward. Okay, and I'm going to flip us over, because to me that makes more sense. So as we advance, now we have a different view of the sky. We're now looking out in a different direction, advancing 3 more months, and look at where we're going. Now we're over here, looking at a different portion of the sky, 3 more months over here, looking at a different portion of the sky. So every time a season comes and goes, we're looking at a different section of the sky. And now we're in the season of summer. So let's take a look at our summer nighttime sky to see what we can find out there. It's important to point out that there are officially 88 constellations. Now, we're not going to see all 88 of the constellations. These are just some of the ones that you will find in summer. I'm not going to go over all of these constellations. I'm only going to go over 3 right now. Now, what we recognize today has been different over time. It's changed. The ancient people of Greece saw in their time was very different than what the Chinese saw. But everyone did pretty much the same thing. They went outside, they looked up at the stars, and they made their own picture patterns. Oftentimes, people of different cultures were very close to what they saw from place to place. Let me wash myself out here. Not only that, but you don't need to see me. Okay. All right. So again, people would go outside, they would look up into the stars, on the prominent stars, and they would make up picture patterns. We have a tendency to do this. Even when we go outside during the daytime, we see certain clouds and we think of what those clouds remind us of. Same thing goes for stars. People would go outside, they would look up into the sky, they would see these bright star patterns, and then they would put them together to form figures. These figures represented certain values and beliefs that they held at the time. This is how we got our 88 officially recognized constellations. Most of those are based on the Greek myths. So people would construct these constellations based on what they believed at the time. For the most part, the 88 constellations are based on the ancient Greek myths. But what the Greeks saw was very different than what the Chinese saw. So we have this little circle here of what. So we have Canis Major, for example. Sirius, the brightest star in the nighttime sky, brightest star in the constellation Canis Major. If we look over here, we saw the great dog. The Arabics saw the great dog. Greeks saw Canis Major, the great dog. Romanians saw the mastiff. The Egyptians, however, saw a triangle, Sirius being the brightest star within this triangle. We also have the constellation of Leo, the brightest star Regulus there. Many people saw a lion. We have a lion here, a lion there. We have a sickle there. The Romanians saw a horse. Koreans saw an emperor in their sky. So different cultures came up with their own patterns. Many of these cultures came up with very similar patterns. And this begs the question, what would we see? What would we come up with if we came up with our own patterns based on our own values and our own beliefs today? So imagine, here's our nighttime sky. I wish I could zoom in here. But you have Leo right here. You've got the Big Dipper up there. So what would we come up with if we had no idea of the 88 officially recognized constellations? We had to come up with new constellations. What would we probably come up with? Here's what I did. I drew these lines. These lines, the prominent stars that I saw. So looking at these lines here, what would you come up with? Some of these shapes. Would we see a lion here, or would we see the Loch Ness Monster? The Mystery Machine with its exhaust coming out the back. Albert Einstein. He-Man. Enterprise. Nike swoosh. Starbucks. No one is sponsoring this, but this is what I saw. Well, these are not the official 88 constellations by any means. The official constellations we have are here. Oops. Now, again, I'm not going to cover all of these constellations. I'm just going to cover a few of them right now. Okay, so we are in the season of summer, and summer has something very prominent that you can easily find yourself whenever you go outside at night. It's going to be called the summer triangle. The summer triangle is composed of 3 very bright stars at the edge of the triangle. You've got Altair, you have Vega, and you have Deneb. Each of those is the brightest star in their own constellation. The summer triangle is what is known as an asterism. An asterism is an unofficial constellation that is part of a major constellation or several constellations. In this case, the summer triangle is part of 3 constellations. So first up is going to be Altair. Altair is the brightest star in the constellation Aquila the Eagle. In fact, Altair also means eagle, is Arabic for eagle. And then you have Vega up here, which is the brightest star in Lyra the Harp, and then you have Deneb up there, brightest star in Cygnus the Swan. Now these stars here, these 3 stars, these 3 stars are part of an ancient Chinese story called The Cowherd and the Celestial Goddess. So, the way that this story goes is many years ago there was this celestial goddess up in the sky, and she was weaving these colorful clouds. That was her job. The clouds of the large Magellanic Cloud, the small Magellanic Cloud, the deep sky objects, the galaxies that appeared as clouds to us from Earth. Her job was to weave these clouds, but one day she got very bored of doing the same thing over and over again, so she decided to come down to Earth for some fun. When she came down to Earth, she met this young cowherder. Now, whenever they met, they fell instantly in love. They married and they had several children. And it was like this for quite some time, until finally, one day, the celestial goddess's mother found out about this, couldn't find her daughter anywhere, finally found her on Earth, married with several children. She ordered her daughter back into the sky to weave the colorful clouds and continue her work. Well, this very much upset the cowherder. One day he was outside with his cows and he was crying. And this is when one of his cows began to speak to him. One of his cows said, "Look, if you kill me and you take my hide, you can hide underneath it and hide the children as well, and then you can sneak into the sky and see your wife again." That is exactly what he did. He killed his cow, he hid himself and his children, and he went up into the sky to meet up with his wife. Now, the Chinese believed that whenever the mother, the celestial goddess's mother, found out about this and separated the two, she took out her hairpin and she cut this ravine in the sky, known as the Silver River. Now, this separated the two. And in this story, Vega represents the Weaver Girl, the celestial goddess. Altair represents the cowherder, separated between this huge silver river. But on one day of the year, during the Qixi festival, little magpies came out and they separated this silver river with this dark path you can almost see right here. So one day a year, the cowherder, represented by Altair, could go through this river, meet up with Deneb, and then go over to Vega, which represents the celestial goddess, the Weaver Girl. And that is why they celebrate the Qixi festival every year. The once a year meeting of the cowherder and the Weaver Girl in the sky. So you can see this little path there marked between Altair and Deneb. That is the story of the Weaver Girl and the Cowherder, the celestial goddess and the cowherder there. So we've met these 3 stars now and their respective constellations. So let's actually go visit these up close. Now, we just mentioned Altair at the very bottom, so let's go to Altair first to see what this star looks like. It is actually quite a unique looking star. So let's point it out. Here we are on Earth looking up. There's Altair right there. I just marked. Constellation line is there in Aquila the Eagle. So let's travel to it. Now, Altair is going to be 16.8 light years away from us, traveling faster than the speed of light to get there. Here we are approaching. Whenever we get closer to Altair, we will see that it is a very strange shaped star. It's not a perfect globe. It looks almost like a squished egg almost. I'm going to speed up time a little bit here, back away a tad, to see why this holds a strange shape. So we can see it rotating here. I'm going to bring down the exposure just a tad. Now we can see that it is rotating in this direction there. It's rotating so fast. That is why it has this oblong shape to it. In fact, if we looked at it... Oops, wrong button. We can have a better representation of how it is squished towards the equator there. There's rotating. It rotates so fast that it takes just 10 hours to make one rotation. Now, that is in comparison to Earth, which takes 24 hours to make one rotation. Altair is also the 12th brightest star in our nighttime sky. Let's go back home. We're going to find the other 2 stars. Oops, daisy. Deneb and Vega. Let's go to Deneb, since Deneb was on the way to Vega in our little story. There's Deneb. There's this constellation, and Cygnus the Swan, also called the Northern Cross. And we are going there right now. Now, the Egyptians saw something different than the Northern Cross or Cygnus the Swan. They saw something called the Hen in Flight. So again, another example of how different cultures saw different things, but still almost pretty similar. Cygnus the Swan, the Hen in Flight. Here we are at Deneb. And again, I'm going to speed up time because get this solar flow going. There we go. Now, what's cool about Deneb is that we don't quite know how far away it is. Now, they think, scientists and astronomers think that it's around 1,500 light years away from us. So again, whenever you look at Deneb in the constellation Cygnus, the light that you're seeing has left that star 1,500 years ago just to enter your eye. Now, since it is so far away from us, scientists and astronomers, they think that it's around 200 times larger than our sun. If I dial down the exposure here, we can take a good look of how this star looks kind of up close. Some people like to go and visit planets. I really like to look at stars. Well, there's one more we can find in our Romance in the Star type story. We went from Altair to Deneb, and now we're going to go out to Vega. Vega represents the Weaver Girl in our story here. Vega can be found in the constellation Lyra the Harp. There it is, Lyra the Harp. Making our way to it, much closer to us than Deneb. Vega is just 25 light years away from us. Let's go a little faster. Come on, let's go. There we go. Here we are at Vega, or Vega, as some people say. Take a look here of how it kind of looks up close as we... There we go. I've dialed down the exposure. Now you can get a good sense that Vega is a bluish white star with a bluish hue to it. This means that it is a very hot star. So many people think blue as cold, red as hot, but stars, it's a different story. If you look at a candle flame, the very edge, the very outer part of the candle flame is red. As you get in, it gets a little bit more orange. If you get down to the wick, it looks bluish. That very edge of the wick, that's the hottest part of the candle flame. So blue and blue-white stars are the hottest stars. Orange stars are about the middle grade stars. I'm sorry, orange and red stars are the cooler stars, and the yellow stars, like our sun, are sort of medium. So our sun is a medium, very comfortable middle ground type of star. Well, Vega, or Vega, you might also remember that from the movie Contact, based on Carl Sagan's book Contact. They had received these radio signals, these alien radio signals, and these originated from around the area of Vega. But stars and constellations aren't the only things that we can find in our nighttime sky. Nope, we can also find a couple planets as well. Here we are again, looking up at our nighttime sky. Deneb, Vega, Altair. Just below here on the southeastern horizon, you have two planets, Jupiter and Saturn. And if we increase time a little bit here, as midnight approaches, there we go, Mars. There we have Mars right there. So Jupiter, Saturn, and if you can stay up a little bit later, you'll have Mars. So let's go visit these planets to see what we can find, because Jupiter has recently, let's see here, do this one. The Juno spacecraft has been sending back some very beautiful images of Jupiter. Let's take a look. Get rid of these constellations, don't need that anymore. All right, off to Jupiter. Largest planet in our solar system, king of the planets, known for its colorful cloud bands. I'm gonna crash. There we go. Known for its colorful cloud bands, hydrogen, methane, ammonia, helium. These are raging storms going across the surface. Well, the Juno spacecraft has sent back some many beautiful images here. Now, from these images and from Juno, we have found out that Jupiter has more water in the atmosphere than originally thought. Around 0.25% water in the atmosphere. But look at these. These are all storms. These are all clouds. These are all winds raging across the surface. Jupiter has no solid surface. It's thought to have a very dense liquid metal core surrounded by all these gases and all these storms. It's so large, in fact, it is believed to be a failed star. If it was much larger, if it's just a bit larger, actually, it might have ignited into a star. But speaking of water, of the water that they found in the upper atmosphere, there is an interesting moon of Saturn called Enceladus. There we go. So let's go and visit Enceladus, a frozen moon of Saturn. There we go. Okay, and as we approach, that data pulls in to allow us to see the surface there. What does this look like to you? It looks like a huge snowball. What kind of is? The surface of Enceladus, this moon of Saturn, is very smooth. And scientists believe that this layer, this crusty, smooth, icy layer, is about 20 to 25 miles thick. This ice layer, 20 to 25 miles thick. Underneath that is thought to be a liquid ocean around 6 miles deep. In comparison, the deepest part of the Earth, the Mariana Trench, that goes about 7 miles deep. So this crusty planet here, 20 to 25 miles through that ice, just to get to this ocean, it's again another 6 miles deep. And again, talking about water, let's go off and go to Mars. Because we've been talking a lot about Mars and the water and the potential of water on Mars. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars right here. So we've been looking for water on Mars for quite some time. And we have actually discovered a little bit of it. Here we are at Mars. Look at that. We happen to go right up against Valles Marineris. This huge trench, this huge cavern here, this canyon that stretches off across the surface of Mars. This is about from here to there. That is about the distance between California and New York, from coast to coast of the US, or from coast to coast of Australia. Very huge gash in the side of Mars. They think that some moon or some huge other planet or object collided with Mars billions of years ago to create that, or could be that it was a formation due to the tectonic movement during the cooling off period of Mars. Anyways, so yeah, we were talking about water. So it is believed that most of the remaining water on Mars is frozen in the ice caps or trapped beneath the soil, but a small amount of muddy, brackish water can be seen moving down the side of Martian hills in the Martian summertime. Also, it is believed that billions of years ago, Mars had an abundance of water. However, since Mars has a very small core, much weaker gravity, and has a very thin atmosphere, that it was unable to hold on to its water. And over time, the water evaporated out into space. So yes, at one point, Mars did have water. It flowed intermittently, but strongly, sometime during its 4.5 billions of years of history. So that is what you can find in your summer and nighttime sky. Looked over here to the summer triangle. Find 3 very bright stars forming a triangle, and you have found Vega, Deneb, Altair, and constellations Aquila, Lyra, and Cygnus. And then just below that, just below Aquila, you'll find 2 other very bright objects, which will be Jupiter and Saturn on the other end, on the other side of the Milky Way. Then around midnight, you can find Mars. If you're interested in other constellations out there, you can still find many other constellations. There are just quite a number of them all over the nighttime sky. These are just a few. And there you have it. Well, folks, I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to get back to my vacation that I took. So I hope you enjoyed this little primer here on some of the things you can find in your summer nighttime sky. Join me again next week. I'll have a different show for you. I don't know what I'm going to do it on, but if you have any suggestions, please leave it in the comments and we'll cover it next week for We Need Our Space. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week.